So Rand Paul came out today and gave a little press conference where he discussed his frustration that only 8 people get to see the intelligence agency's findings on the Kashoggi killing. His argument was bigger than just Kashoggi, though. He voices his concern about how he says this is his very definition of deep state, that basically there are only a very few people that get to see the access to the information that intelligence communities have, and that all decisions go through them. The first thing he says is he thinks that the Senate needs to take back the power, and Congress in general, to be able to declare war. It shouldn't be done at the behest merely of the president. Now, this is someone, Rand Paul, who's in the same party as Trump and routinely defends Trump. So I think it's big of him to say this, but this is something that I've been upset with since I've become a teenager and first got interested in things like this, such as the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, and other such things. It used to be that we were supposed to have Congress declare these wars, but now it's just a president can launch these attacks unilaterally, and that's bad. Even though I support Trump, I'm someone who routinely supports Trump, and I think Trump's done more to keep us out of conflict in areas such as Russia than most other presidents would have, including Hillary or Obama. Still, he shouldn't have this unilateral power. Something as serious as war should at least go to all the Congress to be able to have an opinion on, and they should at least have all the access to the relevant information that's coming from our intel communities. But Rand Paul then specifically is asked, oh, so you're just complaining about Trump? And he's like, no, I'm not just complaining about Trump. This is the way the system's been for a long time, and we basically have an oligarchy where this deep state intelligence community discusses things with a few people on the intel committee, and then they're able to make all these information. Now, eventually, Rand might get some sort of briefing where he doesn't get much input. He said, I have specific questions that I would like to ask, but I don't get to ask those. Why should a senator from California get to be involved in seeing this information and asking questions, but a senator from Kentucky not being involved? And I would take it a step further. I think when it's matters of going war, that not only does the intelligence community have the obligation to show all of our Congress the evidence, because they are our voice, the people's voice, but I think the people themselves should be allowed to see the majority of the evidence. Elsewise, we keep getting lied into these foreign conflicts. That's how we get lied into going into the Iraq War, or that's how we get lied into helping to go into Libya and overthrowing Gaddafi, or going into Syria. We're constantly told by these intelligence community, trust us, this is what's going on. You can't see it. In fact, most Congress people can't see it. Only a select few can see it, but just trust us. Just trust us. Oh, and yeah, that last time we were wrong, forget about that. This time, trust us. It's absurd. And when you start to then see the bias that goes on with people in the intelligence community, like we were seeing with the Hillary investigation and the Trump-Russia collusion investigation, how they're back-channeling with people in the Hillary campaign, they're using opposition research from Hillary's campaign, they're accusing people of being spies, which 2 years later, for Russia, which 2 years later they don't have one iota of evidence for, despite wiretapping the person. Like, when you start to all this, when you see that the FISA courts that these intelligence agencies are using to get wiretaps and spy on American citizens are just rubber stamps, that information is routinely withheld. Remember, it was the head of the DNI, I can't remember his name right now, it's kind of shameful, but he released a statement, and the FISA court actually released documents criticizing the intel agencies for withholding evidence of them routinely and disclosing evidence that goes to FISA courts to media outlets and using media outlets as evidence. This was a released document back in 2006 by the FISA courts talking about this. It was Rear Admiral Nelson, I believe, was the person who first brought this to. So there's all kinds of, and you don't have to, most people that watch my videos, I think, aren't like people that have the free time that I have to look into this stuff. But you know that these intelligence people are shady. Like, can you really trust them? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But shouldn't we, when we're talking about our friends and relatives, or perhaps some of you that are watching, if you're veterans, thank you so much for your service. Like, we're talking about you getting sent over, being involved in these conflicts. Real people and other people and real people dying, innocent people in those countries dying. Shouldn't we at least have some kind of proof of this is why this conflict is necessary? This is why these sanctions that will kill people or hurt people tremendously are necessary. Here's the intelligence that proves that. That can be done without revealing sources and methods most of the time. And as we see, the majority of time that the intel community say things like, oh, we can't release information or reveal sources and methods, it turns out they're lying. What they're really doing is, we don't want to release this information because it shows that we're incompetent or corrupt. Like, we spent $45,000 on a table. That was something that had to be redacted because if we, the people, found that out, sources and methods would be compromised. No, not really. They use that excuse all the time. Fool me once, shame on you, right? Fool me 40 times, shame on me. After the Iraq War, the media was like, oh, we learned our lesson. We were too complacent with that. We should have asked better questions. Yet here we are, right back to the same place where the same media people are now telling us not only are they not going to ask questions, but if we, the peons, do ask questions, then we're un-American. We're hurting the American system by criticizing American servicemen in the CIA and the FBI. No, it's not about that. It's about that it shouldn't be in the hands of just a few people, even people that I voted for, like Trump, to declare war or declare military conflict or sanctions on people. It should be up to the Congress. They should have access to all this information, as Rand Paul is saying. And if in serious situations, such as us bombing Syria, or perhaps even this Kashoggi situation, depending on what the result of it will be, whether it be conflict in Saudi Arabia, sanctions, conflicts in Yemen, things of that nature, we have the right to see this evidence. We shouldn't just take it on faith. That's how you get a deep state. That's how you get an oligarchy. Now, granted, I'm not so naive to think that they should have to release every tidbit of each investigator's name or intelligence operative's name and other things, all these methods, but we should at least get some sort of proof. Instead, we're constantly just told, trust us, trust us, trust us, with almost no proof given to us. And not even proof given to the individual Congress people from our districts that we voted for. They don't get access to the information either. The Intelligence Committee gets access to the information. And then they tell everyone, yeah. But we know, I'm sad to say we're in a situation where oftentimes there's not a war that these people don't like. And, I don't feel that's being overly conspiratorial. I think that there was a near universal clamoring from the establishment to at least escalate tensions with Russia, to go in and take Assad out. I think that was near universal. The same was true with Gaddafi, both sides. So given that all the people in the higher-ups in those intel committees wanted that, don't you think the least they could do is provide us sufficient evidence that these wars are justified? Or that, even sanctions? Let's not kid ourselves. Sanctions, and one, could lead to actual military conflict, and second, the sanctions themselves not only could hurt our economy and the economy of the country we're sanctioning, but it could actually lead to, things like starvation in those countries, people dying. There's some studies that show that actually sanctions kill more people in places like Iran than a military conflict would. So, no, I'm not, by no means am I like some person who feels we should never have conflict or never have sanctions. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm not like some super hippie type person. I think that we should go after ISIS. I think we should go after actual real threats, terroristic threats. But we should have proof that what we're going after is acceptable. Not like Syria where it's, they gassed their people and then months later we feel, we really didn't have proof that it was them. How many times is that going to happen? It's happened at least twice now. By the way, I didn't do a video on it. Maybe I should. It just came out here a couple weeks ago that, now the rebels use chlorine gas. The very people we were arming, our allies there, use chlorine gas. And that was kind of hush-hush, huh? Which was the accusation, which was what Assad's people were saying all along. But no, we were just told, no, believe us. The White Helmet said it was Assad. We can't show you the info, but just believe us. So I stand with Rand Paul here. Rand's a politician that one of my favorites anyways. I think his dad was my favorite politician ever. I voted for him. But he's absolutely right here. We need to take, when it comes to decisions like this of sanctions and military conflict, we need to get it back to Congress having the authority to do this, not the president, even if it's a president I vote for. And that when these big situations like this Kashoggi situation, the intelligence should be available to all of Congress, and they should all be able to ask questions of the intelligence. Because otherwise we live in a world where the deep state controls our country, and it's sort of an oligarchy where people's voices aren't heard and people's representatives aren't getting the relevant information to make the best decisions. So please like and subscribe my videos if you enjoy this. Even if you don't, you could like and subscribe so you can complain about me all the time. I do live stream videos every Friday at noon, so check that out. This Friday I'll be doing one as well. If you have any ideas for topics you'd like me to cover, please send those to me as well. Or if you'd be interested in possibly calling into the show on Fridays or any other days to do a video, get in touch with me on that too. So don't forget, like and subscribe, and have a good one.